Good morning. Once again, this is Monty from DPL Surveillance Equipment, and I'm wiping down my car as usual, getting my morning chores out of the way. And so, how are you guys doing? What's today? I think it's Monday already. I survived my fast. I recuperated from my workout Saturday, which meant walk later this afternoon. And doing my cardio. That's my cardio. I don't do much cardio in the gym, but I do try to make up for it by doing my 5 mile walk on Mondays. So that's what we're doing today. And then I'll come home afterwards and relax and take it easy. So what's going on? Well, let's see. Trying to think, what is some of the latest headlines besides Trump toying with the idea of putting tariffs on an additional $230 billion worth of goods. I'm not quite sure how consumers are going to benefit from a wage increase or a booming economy if we have to pay all of that back in terms of higher prices on everything that we need on a daily basis. It kind of like negates everything. So that's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. We may even pay more than we would have otherwise. I guess it all depends on how long the trade wars and the rhetoric, everything lasts. But right now, consumers are faced with some real increases in their costs of the goods and services that we need to pay for on a daily basis. Let's see what else. There was some information about the banks are undergoing the Federal Reserve basically wants to pressure the banks into putting more capital reserves aside just in case we have a recession or some other crisis coming on. So I think you guys need to pay attention to that type of rhetoric coming out of Washington, coming out of the Federal Reserve. As the Federal Reserve starts talking about the banks needing to put more capital aside, which is equivalent to me and you coming up with more of an emergency savings account, then that means that someone's expecting a problem. And if they are expecting a problem, they're supposedly going to be bracing for it. Some banks are pushing back, some aren't. So anyway, that's in the news and that's being bandied about. So we'll see what happens with that. Other than that, let me introduce myself. My name is Monty Henry, owner of DPL Surveillance Equipment. We run a full-service surveillance and security equipment company. We have lifetime guarantees and warranties on all the products. We have 24/7, 365 tech sales and customer support. We have the largest inventory of items that not only can you buy, but you can rent or lay away as well. We have an ever-growing or expanding video library. That's a demonstration video library. And in addition to the articles, the podcasts, and the blogs, they're growing and growing and growing. Lots of content, lots of things for you guys to listen to, watch, read. All that information is free. We've integrated Bitcoin into our shopping cart, and that includes Ethereum, Litecoin, and Bcash. And we redesigned the website so you can take advantage of a website that runs quicker, easier to navigate. Hopefully the products and services are easy to find. Lots of new products, lots of used products as well. And just should provide for a very very easy or pleasurable shopping experience on the website. We're trying to move away from the MasterCards and the Visas and American Express. The whole credit card industry, the whole banking industry, merchant processing, all of those guys are basically the problem. And we can't reiterate that enough, that we want to get away from that system and move over to what the cryptocurrency space has to offer, which is basically what we call sound money. money that's not constantly printed away in terms of its value. It's not printed away like the fiat dollar system, like the fiat dollars are. We don't have to worry about excessive quantitative easing on one extreme and quantitative tightening on the other extreme. That's what those guys do when they mismanage the economy and they print too much money on one hand, and on the other hand, they control and manipulate the money supply. And who knows exactly how many dollars are out there in the economy, how many trillions of dollars are counterfeit, how many trillions of dollars are in drug money, how many trillions of dollars are in black box secret military budgets, how many trillions of dollars are used to pay off and overthrow and install regimes and do regime change all over the world. It's just a mess. So we need to have a money that's accountable, that's recorded and permanently logged on the blockchain, for instance, and that which is an immutable database, which can't be altered and modified at the whim of some quote unquote leaders in Washington or somewhere. So that's what's important, okay? And so just take advantage of this new technology, this new opportunity out there, you guys. And let's see, what else? Let's take a look at today's article. Today's article is about the growing trend in marijuana research. Okay, more specifically, the article is titled "Marijuana Research Applications Go Nowhere at Justice Department." Sessions, and that's Jeff Sessions, is a longtime critic of pot use, though he has voiced support for research on drug. 2 years after the Drug Enforcement Administration began accepting requests to grow marijuana for federally approved research, none have been answered, leaving more than 24 applicants in limbo. People familiar with the process said. The future of the initiative ultimately rests with the DEA's parent agency, the Justice Department, and officials under Attorney General Jeff Sessions, a longtime critic of marijuana use, aren't eager to advance the application, these people said. Mr. Sessions has stated publicly he is open to research on the drug, but he has offered no timeline for processing the applications. So again, Jeff Sessions is dragging his feet. These guys in the administration claim to be pro-business, claim to be capable of skirting all of the bureaucracy and getting us an economy that's booming and progressive as far as making things happen, but this doesn't seem to bear that out. Let's see. The applications include a variety of entrepreneurs as well as a university professor and a former Navy SEAL who wants to study how marijuana might help veterans suffering from chronic pain and post-traumatic stress. Republican and Democratic lawmakers have voiced frustration at the delays, saying Mr. Sessions has repeatedly avoided questions about the status of the applications. The inaction, they say, is stalling much-needed research into the potential health benefits of marijuana as society takes a more tolerant view of its use. A DEA spokeswoman referred questions to the Justice Department, which declined to comment. So this sounds like someone's dragging their feet and are afraid to commit themselves. The evolving political landscape has turned some law and order Republicans into advocates for their states' rights to develop a marijuana industry. It has made unlikely allies of lawmakers such as Senators Kamala Harris, Democrat of California, and Orrin Hatch, Republican out of Utah, who last week wrote Mr. Sessions for at least the third time, urging him to take action on the applications. A bipartisan group of House lawmakers also queried Mr. Sessions last week, but received no response. It is imperative that our nation's brightest scientists have access to diverse types of federally approved research-grade marijuana to research both its adverse and therapeutic effects, says Senators Harris and Hatch. California this year started what could become the world's largest legal recreational marijuana market. Utah still forbids the drug, but a ballot measure would legalize it for medical purposes, and Mr. Hatch has been a vocal supporter of the research. At least 26 applications have been submitted since then. At least 26 applications have been submitted since then. None have been approved or rejected. And applicants say they have seen little sign of any movement. The DEA officials believe their push to expand research complied with federal law, but the Trump administration threw the effort into doubt by asking the Justice Department's Office of Legal Counsel to review the matter, to review the policy's legality. The people familiar with the matter said officials concluded it violated a 1961 United Nations treaty that aims to curb drug trafficking. Now, I think this is pretty stupid because the whole gist of what is happening with marijuana is to make sure that everyone understands that this is not comparable to heroin. This is not comparable to cocaine. This is not comparable to LSD or something. It even has less side effects and less detrimental health effects than alcohol and cigarettes. So if these idiots can make sure that everybody smokes and drinks alcohol and smoke cigarettes and drink alcohol, then the least they can do is understand or at least research the effects of marijuana use. Okay. Last spring, Justice Department lawyers privately floated a new policy to expand research that included significant additional restrictions, but DEA officials found it convoluted, saying it would strain the agency's resources and be almost impossible to implement, one person familiar with the discussion said. The effort has since been on hold. I think this is insane in terms of why these people think it's going to be such a impossibility to move forward in terms of allowing for research and study on marijuana, at least so we can keep up with the likes of Canada and Asia and all these other countries that have embraced this industry and are taking advantage of the growing not only marijuana but hemp industry as well. Besides, my federal tax dollars are going to Washington, and my state cannot benefit legally, at least for the federal government is concerned, by allowing for the use of these this natural plant, which is insane. Right now, they only have one authorized research facility. Let's see, where else are we now? Let's see. Okay. It isn't the first time Mr. Sessions has parted ways with members of his own party when it comes to marijuana. GOP Colorado Senator Cory Gardner earlier this year said he would block the Justice Department nominees from moving through the Senate after Mr. Sessions changed DOJ policy to give federal prosecutors more room to pursue marijuana-related cases. He later lifted his blockade. Individual applications are weighed by the head of the DEA, Acting Administrator Udom Dillon, but lawmakers say it is Mr. Sessions' view that matters. It is unclear. It's unclear where Mr. Dillon, a former federal prosecutor who previously led anti-drug efforts at the Homeland Security Department, stands on marijuana research. Adding to their concerns, some research applicants worry that if Mr. Sessions were to leave office, because he's regularly criticized by Donald Trump, the research process would be further slowed. The U.S. government for decades has considered a farm at the University of Mississippi, which grows pot under a contract with the National Institute on Drug Abuse. the only legal source of marijuana. This is the only legal source for marijuana for federal research. Researchers say they need to study. Sorry for the noise. Researchers say they need to study a wider variety of the drug to know if it can be effective in alleviating pain, fighting seizures, combating depression, and relieving post-traumatic stress. The federal government allows for multiple entities to produce controlled substances for scientific research all the time. Why should marijuana be any different? Says George Hodgkin, a former Navy SEAL who started his own business, biopharmaceutical research. It's called Biopharmaceutical Research Company, to conduct research. Mr. Hodgkins became interested in medical marijuana after a fellow veteran considered using it as part of his rehabilitation and learned research was scarce. He applied to the DEA in early 2017. In October, Mr. Sessions told a congressional committee it would be healthy to have more competition, though he doubted the need to approve all 26 applications. I don't think it's necessary, Jeff, this is my opinion, to approve all 26 applications. I think if you can approve 12 or come up with a valid reason why you can't approve 26, then that's different. I think the incompetency, in my opinion, you guys, is running amok in Washington. If Jeff Sessions can't find the appropriate staff or can't figure out how to read or can't figure out how to respond, then we need to hire people who can read and understand and act. But to do nothing is wasting my time and my taxpayer dollars. I don't know what type of people in Congress, or in Washington rather, that think it's perfectly okay to stall in these particular areas where we have a potential market worth $50 billion annually, for instance, in California. That means that there could be a lot of economic activity coming out of California, and since California is the size of most nations, then I think the GDP of California shouldn't be taken for granted, especially considering that we pay a lot of federal dollars, and right now my federal dollars aren't being used wisely at all. In October, Mr. Sessions told a congressional committee it would be healthy to have more competition, though he doubted the need to approve all 26 applications. In April, he told lawmakers the Justice Department was moving ahead with the effort to expand research and would soon add additional suppliers. There may well be some benefits to medical marijuana. It's perfectly appropriate to study it, Mr. Sessions said. But for now, the delay leaves entrepreneurs like Mr. Hodgkin unable to proceed. America should be first in the world in researching novel treatments in a compliant fashion for our veterans and suffering patients, he said. So that pretty much concludes this article, you guys. I just want to make sure you guys understand this is an example of gross incompetency when we have so much at stake. If all the states are contributing federal tax dollars, but at the same time the federal government absolutely refuses to make use of our taxpayer dollars, then they should send our money back to us. But for those guys to constantly collect a paycheck like Jeff Sessions and the others, and at the same time completely stall out when it comes to approving or denying or giving a reason or anything like that, as far as I'm concerned, that is a gross waste of time, and those people ought to be fired, okay? Because we need people who can read, who can write, who can understand and respond. And if you don't have the staff, if you don't have the intelligence or competency, we need to get people in there that do and that can work on these problems. Who knows what all else other applications and regulations and legislation that are being thrown underneath someone's table and just buried and hoping that it'll go away. Anyway, as I like to say at the conclusion of every podcast, you guys, stay safe out there and keep your eyes and ears open. We'll talk later.